This is the last video going through showing you how to set up the GUI interface for the Flickr application. So again, this is not the material design videos, that's the next set of videos. This is just adding the basic GUI interface, and also at the end of the video I'll be showing you how the app works. So you've got a bit of a good solid overview of how everything works and why it does what it does. So let's get into it. So again, just to be clear with this here, it's essentially because in the original version we were initializing it with a different parameter. Here we've already got the destination URI, so what the location of where the data is. So if we don't make this change, it actually crashes. So that's the reason why we're changing it there. Okay, so we need to go back now and change our view, our layout. So we go back to our layouts again. Now if you remember, we fixed browse. That's going to be sort of the layout for each of our photos, but we still need to set up the overall layout that those photos are going to be sort of in, if that makes sense, sort of the container that those photos will be in, so at the higher level, if you will. So what we need to do is, I think I'm going to delete this. This is the default layout for the application that was created automatically, so I'm going to just delete that. And let's just start, and this time instead of a frame layout, we're going to use a relative layout. We'll just do the default things that Android wants, which will be that one. And we'll do a layout width. And we're going to use match parent for both of these. So we're basically going to try and use all the screen, because that will be the default. So match parent for both of those. And let's also put a margin on the top from where this starts to where our first photo sort of shows of 10 pixels. And the reason that I'll do that will become clear when we go through and test this. It's just literally to give a bit of a gap. Okay, so that's the first bit. And what we're adding here, of course, is the recycler view itself, because if you remember, going back to browse.xml, looking at that, we haven't added a recycler view yet. This is what is going to effectively be in the recycler view, the image view and the text view, but we haven't actually added the recycler view, and that's what this activity main XML is going to store, is that recycler view. So what we need to do now is put view, Android, layout width, and we're going to use match parent, layout width, width equals match parent, and layout, so we're just going to use basically the entire space because we've got nothing else to display on the screen other than this. So width and height is match parent. Fill parent for the, incidentally, would also do the same thing, but that's essentially deprecated and not used anymore. So match is the one we want. Now the class, this is the important thing. This tells Android Studio what, or Android in general, what type of view it is. Android.support.v7.widget. Yep, better fix that typo in a minute. Recycler view. If I can type, it would be a good thing. Okay, you can see as soon as I get it right, the red changes to green, which is good. And the last thing, which I probably should have put up here, is the ID, because we'll need that ID when referencing it. So I'm going to put ID plus ID, and let's just call that recycler view. Recycler view. Okay, and I'll finish that off there like so. So essentially what we've done there is we've created the layout, and we've said the relative layout's going to use everything we can possibly have, everything that's been given to it by the parent, which is in this case the whole screen, and the view, in this case the recycler view, we're going to do the same thing. Because we haven't got any other elements, we're also going to use the entire screen, everything that's been allocated and possible to be used. Okay, so we've got that done now. So now what we need to do is go back to the onCreate method in main activity. Okay, I'm just going to delete some of this to clear up a bit of space. Now, after the set content view, we need to add a few things, and I might just get rid of that as well. We don't need that at the moment. What we need to do first is initialize our recycler view. That's the one we only just created the layout for. So it's going to be recycler view, find view by ID, r.id.recycler view. And we need to set the layout manager, recycler view dot set layout manager, new a linear layout manager, this. Okay, then we're going to do process photos equals new process photos, and we're going to use our Android lollipop for parameters for now, and we'll say yes to match all. Oops, true. Then process photos dot execute. So we're just about ready to go. We've still got an error, and that's in this Flickr recycler view adapter. So if you recall, we talked about adding that extra function, that important bind function. So let's go and do that now. Control O, and I'm going to go to on bind view holder, and that's going to be the method we're creating now. So first things first, I'm going to do photo item equals photos list.get I. Now I is passed to this method automatically by the view. So that tells us the index position of the element. This is the photo and the title in the view that is being drawn on the screen at this point in time. So we're using that I to find the ith element of our photo, because we know that they both match up. What's on the view and what's in our array, our list I should say, our array list, is going to be the same thing. Next, we need to draw the thumbnail. So we're going to use Picasso. Okay, I'm just going to rebuild that to see whether it will find that. I had a typo there after all that, so I make that 3. I had a lowercase l there. So that should fix that up. I think what I forgot to do was to update the build, the Gradle build file, to tell it to use that jar file. So if you recall, the name of the jar file was Picasso-2.4.0. Okay, so I need to add Picasso. So compile. You need to do this for external libraries. So I actually just forgot to do that. So it's square up, and usually the documentation will tell you what this is. But this one's Picasso. I think it's -2.4 dot plus. And you'll know if you've got it right, because when we go to sync, we'll get an error if I've got it wrong. And if it's right, it'll process. So I've got that wrong. Okay, and I think that was meant to be a colon on there, and I put a dash. So we'll try that. Third time lucky. And it looks like we've got it, so that's good. We've fixed that up. So we've now told the project, the Flickr browser project, that we're going to be using Picasso and where to find the code in that jar file. So now if we go back to our adapter, I should be able to start typing Picasso. There we go, Picasso. Now this is where we're going to download the object. So Picasso.with with our context. We're going to load from our photo item. Remember we got that on the previous line. .get image. The image is the URL in a string format that points to our image. So we're going to do that. Dot error. Remember the placeholder. So we're going to go dot error r.drawable. So if there's an error or while it's downloading, it's going to use this drawable dot placeholder. But also, we're going to set the placeholder to be r.drawable dot placeholder. So what you could do there, you could have another image there to call it like error and it might display an error, a red cross or something like that to indicate it wasn't able to download. We're just going to use the same image for both at this stage. And I might just make this a little bit tidier so you can read it a bit easier. So .placeholder, and then we want to go, so at the moment we've sort of said we want you to download this image, show this image here if there's an error, and while it's downloading to show this as a placeholder. So what we haven't told it is what to do with it. So we want to put dot into our Flickr image view holder, and of course it's the dot thumbnail. So that's ultimately where it's going to go, into that thumbnail. Again, if you recall, going back to our view holder, that's this thing here, this image view. So that's the magic of this adapter. That's putting that into that holder, view holder for us. But we're not quite done yet. We need to also set the title. So we've now got the image, or the image is going to be downloading. So we need to also do a Flickr image view holder dot title dot set text, because remember this is a text view. It's not actually a like a string. So photo item dot get, and we're going to use the title. Okay, so essentially at this point, I think we've now got an application we can try running. So let's see if we can run it. With a bit of luck, it will work. It's the old one. See down the bottom, it's still executing the task. So we'll wait till it's finished. There we go. And we'll quickly scrub over there. And there's our Flickr browser, and you can see the images. And look at that. Did you see what happened there? So there's our view. So the overall view has got our title, and it's got a setup, a default menu, and that's sort of done by default. But these are our images and our views. Now, what I want to show you is what happens when I scroll. So you can see that when we first loaded that screen, you saw that you saw the placeholder images, and then you saw it stop because it downloaded them. And this is the text that's associated with each one. So if I scroll a bit further, you can see what's happening there. So it's automatically calling this method. This is what the view is doing. It's sort of the adapter and the view are talking to each other. They're calling this method automatically. Picasso is now loading the images automatically, and once the images are finished downloading, it's then replacing the placeholder image with the final downloaded image. And just to confirm that, to check that that is working, what we can do, we can put something here. So we could just put a log statement in there. So log.d log underscore tag. Did we have one here? I can't remember. No, we didn't. We might actually add one. Private final string log tag equals Flickr adapter dot class dot get simple name. So we'll do that, and we'll go log tag, and let's put something like processing photo item dot get I dot whoops, I need to put that line before it. Line dot get I photo item dot get we'll display the title, and why don't we put the element as well, integer dot to string I. So every time this method is called, we're just going to sort of output that to the console. So I'm going to start it again, and we won't have probably time to see this, so I'm going to go back to our console. Oh, you can actually see it on there, Nexus raw and the record numbers. So now if I bring the Genie motion here, we should see as I move, you can see that's been automatically getting processed, and I might move it over here, might be easy for us to see. So you can see that processes in Nexus 5 RAM, and every time we change it, we want to give that a bit more space so we can sort of see it again. every time we scroll, that's being executed. So let's just, to make this a bit easier, let's just change it. Let's do a completely different search of something else. So we'll go back to our main activity. And we'll change this altogether. Let's do something like Assassin's Creed, a game that I've been playing at the moment, Unity. And see whether we can find anything about this game. So we've got three things. We're looking for photos that have got all three of those words in them. So we're going to run that again. Once that starts, we'll go back to our monitor first. And you can see it's downloading, and it's obviously found some photos there. And if we show them, we should be able to see some Assassin's Creed Unity. And again, as it's updating, you can see it's automatically updating the images for us, and it's pretty neat. Probably not the best example because the titles weren't different, but so we'll do one more search just to make sure that we're on track here. So let's just do a search for something pretty generic. Google. Can't get much more generic than Google. Just to make sure that our titles and so forth are still working. I've got no reason to think they're not, but so you can see there it's obviously processed the JSON data, and now it's processing the images. And again, if we have a look, we can see the full text is definitely being updated, and the images are being downloaded. And what is interesting is you notice that even though that was only a little bit on the screen, that was still enough to invoke the call. So again, if I just scroll really slowly, did you see what happened there? Just watch down the bottom here as I scroll even minutely into the screen. You can see that instantly uploaded it. All right, this video is becoming a marathon. Just one other things I just want to quickly show you, or one other thing. Remember we talked earlier in an earlier video about centering of these images. So we can actually change that. We can go back to Android Studio, go into our layout, browse. Now you remember, I'll give ourselves a bit of room here. Remember we had fit center. So we could put, if we want to, fit start. Fit start, which should now try and move things to the left. The actual photo, it will move to the left. We'll just look at the emulator this time. So if the photo's smaller than the space, you can see that's now moving to the left. We'll just try and find a few more. You can see that that's a clear example of it moving to the left. Likewise, we could move that to the right. And the other thing I wanted to show you was we'll just take this line out. We'll just make it 0 density independent pixels to show you why I set that up. This was basically the gap between the image and the text. We'll go back in here again. And you can see without that gap, the text is flushed too close to the image and it doesn't look good. So that's what that gap was for. So I'll just undo that change. Then finally, before we finish, the activity main, this margin at the top. Now if I remove that temporarily and we run that again, oops. You see, it's too close to the top there. That's why we had the gaps there. The gaps, 10 density independent pixels, just makes it fit nicely. So one last time, and then we'll end the video. Now, the other thing to note, you're probably wondering, just briefly, how come the images are coming back so quickly when we're scrolling back up? Because of course what's meant to happen is, and what does happen, is the objects are deleted when they go off screen. What a view typically does like this, it'll store one view, one extra object at the top and one at the bottom so that we can scroll smoothly. But it's the Picasso object is, or Picasso library is automatically caching some of those images, and they're sort of coming back instantly, which is pretty cool. In case you're wondering. Okay, so what I suggest you do is have a bit of a play around with some of these options and try adding some margins and so forth, and maybe playing around with the heights and stuff, because that's really how you learn to do some of these things, by trying them out. Like, maybe trying to align the parent to the right or something like that, or to the bottom, just to see what the results are. All right, I'm going to end it here. So that's the end of part 2 of the Flickr browser app. We've now got the basic GUI functionality. In the next set of videos I'm going to be uploading, we are going to put a new coat of paint on this application. We're going to use the material design features of Android Lollipop and put a proper sort of nice looking GUI functionality or piece of GUI functionality on top. We're also going to change it so that this text that we're typing in, you can find it. This text we're typing in here, we're going to have that in the GUI, so you can just sort of type that on the device itself. But more on that once we get those other videos uploaded.